issues with my camera. I don't know if that will work out because I've been trying since 8. Ok, je me présente. Je suis... Attendez, vous avez encore des participants qui rentrent. Ok. Oui, je suis Diana Chanto, your tutor for both modules, Clinical Social Work and Sexuality and Health. Et je suis psychologue depuis plus de 10 ans. And now we have a board of registration. Donc, je suis enregistrée à Psychologist in Mauritius. I work with adolescents and their families. I've been teaching since 5 years at the Open University. I've taught school social work, clinical social work, sexuality and health, and for diploma and degrees in social work, and I've taught for masters in education. What else about me? I have a PhD in psychology, and my specialization now is in trauma and couple and family therapy. We have both diploma and degrees and top up in class, right? Do you have any class representative?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is the class? You have only one for the whole class. I see you have. It's a big batch.
It's Hemshika Lakshman. I think she's not here. I don't know.
Lakshman, Rishika.
Hemshika. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there's only one class representative for the whole class because I have a class roll of above 70.
She is the class representative for BSc Social Work.
Okay, thank you. So you are acquainted with Blackboard platform. I just wanted to give you an overview of what I have included. So I know what you see, student preview. I'll give you an overview of. Before we start, can you introduce yourself, be it in the chat, so I know your name, I can see it, but do you work? Where do you work? Just to have a little background from where you come from, if you're working the Ministry of Social Security, or if you're not working, actually, you're just a student, to give me an overview of your background so that I can, how do you say that? I can adapt my reading materials, my presentations for the whole group. During the class, this is our first class, we'll have visual presentations of my PowerPoint, but I'll be using Blackboard for those who likes to see me instead of just listening to whatever I'm saying, to write it down, to structure your knowledge. And our third class will be in person. Is it at the Open University in Forest Side, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Um, so if you have questions, like if sometimes I get so engrossed in my teaching, I tend to go a little fast or I speak too fast. Just not raise your hand because I might not see you, but just ask me to repeat or to explain again. I'll be happy to. Depending on how you see our class, maybe we might have a revision class in addition to our five um, teaching classes. I've been doing this for a few batch because while I'm teaching, you just have you listen, you practice, and all that. But revision is something else. You need to go back to everything, and then just a revision. Like I show you how it is a flow. Each chapter, like sometimes students will tell me, give us tips for exams, but I can't give you tips because it's a flow. Like from chapter unit 1 to unit 5, you will see there is a flow, at least for clinical social work. For sexuality and health, it's quite it's about facts, evidence. It's about it's more factual, and you have to read, you have to learn. So thank you. We've started with someone presenting themselves. Okay, thank you. Anyone want to jump in to present themselves or just in the chat so that I can have it later to, like I said, to adapt my teaching materials because I've been adapting it every time for every batch. So you might write at your own time. I can show the PowerPoint in the meantime, and I will be recording. Let me start. Okay, this is our first class. It's the 12th August, and we'll be doing sexuality and health. I hope you had some time to go through the manual. Um, if you hadn't have time, it's okay, it's fine because we'll be. mm it's quite easy, like starting with sexuality definitions. It just gives you an overview of what is sexuality and health, why it is important. It's first of all, what do you expect for this class today? So you'll be presenting yourself in the chat. Take your time, feel free. You might do it creatively, like say something about you, something you like, just for me to get to know you because fortunately we'll be meeting for our third session, or else we would not have met. How are you this morning? Because classes start early, so you can just chill out while we'll be going through the first unit. Like I always say, sexuality and health is way easier than clinical social work. So start with sexuality and health. Easy. We'll have a short break before starting with clinical social work. So take a few deep breaths. Uh, take some pieces of paper where you can jot down anything that you see is pertinent, that you highlight if you have your manual with you, either on your tablet or printed out. You might highlight certain important points that I might point out. And what to expect, it's the first unit. We'll go through the manual and also through uh, this PowerPoint presentation, which is already uploaded on Blackboard. So on Blackboard, you have your manual and you have this presentation along with a short video of Alok. Alok, who presents himself as a transgender. It's good, like I expose you to this type because Mauritius, we're still learning. We're not like we are in the middle. We're still learning about things, about gender, about non-binary, about pronouns. So today we'll be doing Unit 1. The first definition of sexuality in your manual, it's it takes a few sentences because it encompasses many things. Like if you have to give a definition of sexuality, it's many things. Because it encompasses many dimensions. Start with the biology of being either male or female. It's gender also. Gender, we say how you perceive your sexual orientation, or do you see yourself as male, female, non-binary. It's also in your thoughts, in your feelings, your emotions, in your behaviors. So sexuality is many things. And it's also influenced by ethics, by your societal values, by moral concern, by religion. So gender is basically a psychosocial term. In your manual, you have these three terms: gender identity, gender roles, gender typing. Gender identity is how you identify yourself as male, as female, as non-binary, as bisexual. It's it's not like you're not defined by it for lifetime. It can change when you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 50s. It can change. It's quite fluid. This is how we view gender identity. Gender roles is similar to like social expectations of you being a male, of you being a female. Gender typing, it's similar to stereotyping. We expect gender female to do household chores, the male to be more manual. That's gender typing. So this is a quick overview about the definition of sexuality. Um, so, do you see the manual?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm always checking because it happened that I forgot to display the manual and or display something and start speaking. So unit one, like unit one, you got manual here. I like to start with the content because, like, when you're studying, you need to have a good structure of learning. That's how you it will help you easily recall whatever you've been learning. So start with the content. What to expect in the content? First, we talk about gender and its influences. It's behind gender and its influences. There's also biological. The biological influences. It's hormones, about hormones. And note that initially we thought that there was only biological influence that influence whether someone is describe themselves as male or female. It was mostly biological. But then we thought that no, it's not just biological because we live in a society. So there's also social influence that come into play. And then they say, no, it's not just biological and social because people think. So there's also cognitive influences. So the three influences are biological, social, and cognitive. Then they compare male and female gender differences in physical aspects, in thoughts, cognitive aspect, and in social emotional. Again, we talk about sexuality and sexual orientation. And in that, we talk about biological, cultural, these two factors. Note that sexuality and sexual orientation is not just biological, there's also cultural factors. And then sexuality through the lifespan. Talk about since a baby is in the womb, how sexuality develops, then infants and childhood, puberty, adolescence, teen pregnancy. We talk about teen pregnancy here. Adulthood. Adulthood, there is uh, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood, where there's marriage or no commitment, casual sex. Middle adulthood is marked by menopause, uh, sexual dysfunction, and then late adulthood marked by death of a partner in disease. Again, talk about sexual orientation and then laws pertaining to sexuality. That's all for Unit 1. Okay, these are your learning objectives. We'll discuss about sexuality, what's its meaning, and factors that influence sexuality. Then understand the different perspective around the concept of gender and develop an argument around concepts, sexual practices and behaviors, understand how sexuality develops through a lifespan. So there are two definitions of sexuality. WHO defines sexuality as a central aspect of being human throughout life. It encompasses sex, gender identities, gender roles, sexual orientation, eroticism, pleasure, intimacy, and reproduction. It is experienced and expressed in thoughts, in fantasies, in desires, in beliefs, attitude, values, behaviors, practices, roles, and relationships. While sexuality can include all of these dimensions, not all of them are always expressed or experienced. Sexuality is influenced by the interaction of biological, psychological, social, economic, political, cultural, legal, historical, religious, and spiritual factors. So, this is a big definition, like it englobes everything. Then you have a second definition, which is quite similar, but it involves anatomy, physiology. It's more about the biological aspect. And also it talks about identity and roles. And so it's being human with all the dimensions included. Here you have a three terms in your manual. It's about gender. So the difference between sex and gender, sex is more biological. We define it as either male, female, and gender is more a psychosocial term. It's how you perceive yourself belonging to either this binary group or non-binary. Donc, c'est important de comprendre là le gender perspective parce que as future social workers, or those who think they might be in the helping profession, understanding gender is crucial because meeting people from like adolescence to adulthood, vous allez voir que c'est ça la chose que les personnes peuvent se sentir mal à l'aise de parler. Elles vont sentir que maybe we are judging them. So understanding that gender is how you define yourself and being open to their own definition. C'est important. On va voir ça après. Ça veut dire qu'on va parler de neopronouns. Les pronoms. On va voir avec les pronoms. So let me... Donc, on parle de biological influences. Quand on parle de gender, how do you define yourself as biology? Quand on parle de biology, it's about human beings have 46 chromosomes in pairs, 23, pair 2, etc. Donc, les hormones, il y a for the developmental of a female genital, estrogen mainly, and for male characteristic and secondary characteristics, c'est plus androgen. Donc, c'est about c'est predominantly it's about hormones. Then we talk about the social influence. Donc, many theorists pertain that psychological gender difference did not stem from biological predisposition, but more from social experiences. Donc, notre expérience dans la société can contribute in our definition as a non-binary, as a male, as a female. Deux théories qu'on a mis ici, c'est le psychoanalytic theory of gender. Psychoanalytique, ça nous fait penser à Freud. Psychoanalytic, it's Freud's view of sexuality and gender. Donc, il parle que les petits, ils sont sexually attracted to the opposite parent. It's if it's a girl, she's attracted to her father, like when they are really small. And then at the age of 5 or 6, they renounce this attraction because of anxious feeling and end up identifying with the same-sex parent. Bon, ça n'a pas été prouvé parce qu'auparavant, psychoanalytic, Freud's theory was just his own experience as a child and also his experiences with his patients. He used to say patients. But social cognitive theory is more proven parce qu'on a fait des expériences. Donc, social cognitive theory of gender pertains that children's gender develops with a process of observation. Donc, they observe and they imitate the gender behavior. It's like, si vous avez des enfants, vous allez voir les enfants qui imitent. Peut-être la fille va imiter son père ou sa mère. Donc, they observe first and then they imitate certain behaviors. This will influence their definition of their own gender and the process of rewards and punishment. So, if we reward them through our smile, our praise for their behavior, ils peuvent manifester plus ce comportement. Quoique, on a vu pour ceux qui, depuis tout petit, they show certain behavior, like boys might want to play with dolls, or c'est-à-dire qu'ils ont des comportements not, c'est qui n'est pas conforme. So the experience of reward and punishment might influence them either to deny their own self or not to show their own self to their parents. Ça aussi, ça c'est arrivé. Donc, social cognitive theory parle de observation et imitation et aussi l'influence de rewards and punishment in people showing their gender identity, like in children. Donc, deux théories concernant le social influence. Le cognitive influence, quand on parle de cognitive, on parle de thoughts, on parle de comment la connaissance est structurée. Social influence, cognitive influence, parle de how children structure their knowledge about gender. Donc, those who support cognitive influence, they say that children do not passively internalize gender roles, but they have their own mind, like they structure their knowledge about gender, like they imitate, they don't just imitate, like they observe and then decide whether they want to be like this or not. There's some kind of decision. Quoique c'est très limité parce que ils sont petits, ils n'ont pas accès au higher thinking, mais ils peuvent décider, voilà, this schema for gender, c'est-à-dire, ils développent un schema, c'est-à-dire, it's like a little library in their brain. What is gender? Ils vont dire, OK, une fille, ça porte le rose, ça fait ça, ça fait ça. Donc, they would choose to be like that. Or they choose to wear blue, to be more active, donc, c'est un peu la décision de l'enfant. It's more about the cognition. C'est pas juste l'imitation, mais they think about it and then they act. Donc là, je fais a quick summary of what I've been saying. We talk about sexuality, the definition of sexuality, and then about gender. There's the three terms, gender typing, gender roles, gender identity. Et puis on parle de biological influence of gender, social influence, and the cognitive influence. Donc, gender similarities and differences, au niveau physical aspects, donc on a vu les différences au niveau brain structure. This you can read at your own time, in your own time, about the differences in brain structure and how it influences their behavior. Donc, il y a les différences au niveau biological, au niveau du brain development. There's difference au niveau cognition, but au niveau cognition, uh, there's no significant differences in male and female in areas of intellectual ability. C'est-à-dire ce qui est the IQ. There is no major difference. Même si les filles outperform boys in school. Donc, différence au niveau socio-émotionnel. C'est-à-dire là sont les études qui ont démontré les différences. It has been reported that boys were more physically aggressive. Females were more expressive, openly. And they were more able to decode emotions, c'est-à-dire to interpret emotion. Et les études ont montré aussi que males express more anger. Maybe because society accept more anger from male than female. Girls are more likely to show empathy. C'est un petit peu socialization qui fait la différence aussi, mais pas que ça. Girls demonstrate more self-regulation and girls were more people-oriented, boys were more things-oriented. Ça sont les études qui ont démontré ces différences-là. Au niveau socio-émotionnel, au niveau cognitif, on a vu, et puis physical, c'est-à-dire brain development. Avant d'attaquer sexuality and sexual orientations, let's go back to something lighter, les pronoms. You don't see. Okay, sorry. Just okay, I will zoom. Sorry. So you see my screen, pronouns. Pronouns, we in academics, ça veut dire in universities abroad, when you will see lecturers or professors will put their name and their pronouns. It's quite common. Even on LinkedIn, we put our name and our pronouns to make it easy for people to refer to us. Donc les pronoms, par exemple, mes pronoms sont he, she, elle en français, excusez-moi, c'est she, her et elle en français. C'est important parce que there are people whose pronouns are different from their appearance, from their, you might like, some people might look like a female, might be a female, like sex characteristics, but their pronouns are they, them, because they don't fall into the binary male or female. They might be, we say LGBTQIA. So, out of respect for everyone, defining your pronoun and using the pronoun that the person is defined by, c'est une façon de montrer qu'on les respecte aussi. It's like when someone uses use your name, if they mispronounce it every time, it kind of get frustrating. So, c'est un peu similaire. C'est quand c'est-à-dire une personne utilise votre nom, si vous avez corrigé une fois, deux fois, mais la personne persiste durant, à chaque fois qu'elle va vous appeler, vont utiliser like mispronounce your name. So pronoun for people, it's very important. Et moi, j'utilise ça to open a space for people, like in therapy, to open a space for people to talk about their problem. Sometimes they might have something relation to their orientation, sexual orientation, but they hesitate, especially in our culture. in our motion culture. So pronoun, like when you present yourself as a therapist, as a social worker, you include the pronouns like my pronouns are she and her. What's your pronoun? Les adolescents savent ça bien plus encore parce que ils vont dire, j'ai eu des adolescents qui vont me dire my pronouns are they, them, or she, her. But still, they might have same pronoun like sex and gender similar, but they fall in the LGBTQIA. Donc, faut être open, surtout quand on est in the helping profession. Donc, c'est quoi les pronoms? Donc, ça, c'est, it's a bit English class. Pronouns are words that a person may use to identify themselves instead of their names. For example, she, her, hers, or he, him, his, are typically feminine and masculine pronouns, respectively. Donc, c'est easy when you define yourself as your sex characteristics, like you're he, him, or she, her. Sometimes when we have Zoom classes, we used to put our name and then our pronouns to make it easy. However, some feel more comfortable with gender neutral pronouns. The most common gender neutral pronouns are they, them, theirs, used in the singular to refer to an individual in a way that is not gendered. I had one lecturer who defined as they, them. J'allais dire she, but they define as they, them, and they were clear about it. They, like, they were part of a LGBTQIA. They had a PhD in psychology, and they taught me about sexuality and identities. It's interesting to have their perspective because they tend to criticize the literature, the theories from another perspective that we might not have because uh, we view things in a certain way. Donc, my lecturer was so adamant about pronouns that they even had a tattoo that wrote about they, them on the tattoo, like because that was important for them. So we have to get used to using the pronoun that the person is defined by. Now, by using the right pronoun, we communicate respect. And there's connection. Surtout, je dis parce que we are helping professionals, social workers, or, when you are social workers, we can call you therapists, we can call you helping professionals. C'est important de communiquer le respect. D'abord, parce que this is like the introduction when you be introducing yourself, like you are this person, my pronouns are. It opens a space for your client to feel accepted. Okay, you're quite open. I can talk about sexuality. I can talk about my identity with you. Donc, it's about a public identity. So pronouns, they can be binary, he, him, she, hers, or non-binary, they, them, and there are also neopronouns. Neopronouns can get tricky. And sometimes we prefer not to use any pronoun, or like some of my younger clients, initially they describe themselves as they, them, and then after 1-2 years they decide to use the he, him pronoun. But donc it's up to the person because it's something that defines them. Donc le néopronoun can be a word created to serve as pronoun without expressing gender, like they, their. There are some therapists, some psychologists, not immersionists, who use these pronouns. Mostly the neopronouns are used by the LGBTQIA plus, that is the um, lesbian, gays, bisexual, etc. Je vais l'écrire tout à l'heure, bien définir. Neopronouns are a category of new. Neo means new pronouns that are increasingly used in the place of she, he, or they when referring to a person. Donc le néopronoun. Some examples include they, them, their, ze, here, his. Donc it gets tricky. There's a list. If you Google that later on, you'll have a list depending on whether you are lesbian, gays, trans, queer. So you get to decide which pronoun define you best. Donc these are terms like transgender, non-binary. Non-binary, it's like those who don't define themselves male or female, or gender non-conforming people. Like they don't want to be put in a box. Like they don't want to be uh, categorized because uh, they want to feel free whether to wear pink, whether to wear a handbag. C'est vraiment intéressant à l'étranger quand vous pouvez faire du shopping et voir une personne like appearance of a male, but then they might hold a bag which normally is used by female, or you might see a blouse like a female with flowers, like, but still uh, they might define themselves as male, but using things that are not gender conform. Petite vidéo pour illustrer. Donc, In a Heartbeat, you can find it on YouTube, In a Heartbeat by David and Bravo. Donc, regardez cette petite vidéo et dites-moi ce que vous avez compris. Donc, vous avez compris l'histoire. Hmm. Donc, des questions jusqu'à présent? Ok. Je suis en train de voir vos présentations. Bon, presentation of yourself. 2 minutes. Mhm. Hmm. Ok, donc maintenant, on fait sexuality and sexual orientation. Euh, donc, what affect gender? Biological factors such as hormones affect gender and sexual behavior. On a parlé de ça, il y a estrogen et androgen, which help regulate and monitor uh, the pituitary gland in your brain. Okay. Donc, biological factors will influence gender. Donc, ça, c'est les hormones. Mais aussi, il y a cultural factors. Donc, sexual behavior differ from one culture to another. On parle de sexual script. Il y a le traditional religious script that says sex is acceptable only within marriage, and extramarital are taboo. Donc, sex is a symbol for mainly reproduction. This is a traditional religious script. Then we have a romantic script that says love is associated with sex, that is acceptable to have sex with a person, either married or not, if we have a relationship with that person or we are in love. Et si on voit, auparavant, Maurice, we had a more traditional religious script, but now there has been some influences. Je ne vais pas dire dans l'île Maurice entière, like mostly, there is some kind of influence. There is a mixture of traditional religious script and also romantic script. Donc ça, c'est deux aspects qui influencent sexuality and sexual orientation. C'est important aussi de savoir que, comme j'ai dit, sexual identity, sexual orientation, it's both genes and, c'est-à-dire biological. It's both about our genetic makeup, but also about the environmental aspect. We cannot say that it's 50-50%. It's an influence of both. C'est-à-dire, pourquoi une personne se définit as homosexual, LGBTQIA? pourquoi une personne se définit as such et une autre personne de même environnement se définit as heterosexual. So it's a mixture. We cannot say that because I heard and I read some of my students' work. It sometimes I see they would say because they are mostly surrounded by sisters, they have developed this and these behaviors and tendencies. C'est pas totalement ça. C'est it's a mixture of genetic factors and environmental factors. Parce que pourquoi un enfant de 2, 3 ans montre certaines préférences, certains aspects, and on a eu ça. J'ai eu mes collègues à l'étranger qui nous parlent de un parent qui a un enfant de 2, 3 ans qui commence à avoir ce comportement et on ne sait pas quel genre de support pour ne pas brusquer l'enfant, quel genre de support. So they are looking for help to understand their child, to help them grow, to be the best version of themselves. Donc, on ne peut pas totalement dire que c'est l'environnement qui influence une personne, but it's both factors. And as helping professionals, such as future social workers, the point is to remain open, to create that open space. We are not here to judge. We are not here to say that okay, because you have been influenced by your environment, you should change environment. Ça pas du tout, pas du tout. Il faut juste comprendre la personne, accepter la personne dans la session comme elle est. Laisser la personne se découvrir, understand through our session, through our therapeutic session. Um, Avant qu'on commence ça, on fait. Oui, petite pause d'une minute pour dire que depuis 9 heures, votre assignment is accessible. Donc, comme j'ai dit, chaque semaine, you will have, like by next Friday, you will have, or Saturday, you will have access to unit, donc c'est Sexuality and Health, to unit 4. Pourquoi unit 4? Because unit 4, you have notes on narrative therapy, oui, l'application. Lisez toute la littérature. Oui, dans le manuel, donc je réponds à Monsieur Obilek. You have access to the assignment, but notes on narrative therapy. You just have in Unit 4, there's just mention about narrative therapy. But I have uploaded like 4 to 5 reading articles on narrative therapy. Read it. C'est extrêmement intéressant. Ça vous décrit toutes les étapes, chaque étape qu'il faut prendre, chaque technique. Lisez, comprenez, c'est très intéressant. Narrative therapy was developed by a social worker, Michael White. La prochaine fois, je vais faire une session sur narrative therapy. Mais ce qui est intéressant, c'est que Michael White was a social worker. He came up with narrative therapy. He was an Australian. He died like years ago. He was an Australian, and his wife, Cheryl White, she was in Mauritius a couple of months. I had the chance to meet her, and she continues his work. Like there is a center of narrative therapy in Australia, and donc c'est un petit peu il propage un petit peu le narrative therapy around the world because it's a therapy qui est très très client centered. And it's interesting. It's an interesting approach. Read about it. Là, pour le moment, just have a look at what's on the internet. You will have just mm, an overview of narrative therapy. And then you go into the articles, which is donc le langage même. Il y a des termes qu'on utilise, qui sera intéressant. Donc, every notes are uploaded. It's just your access will be you will get access to it by next week. In our second session, we'll explain about narrative therapy, but please read about it. Euh, je pense que c'est ça. Ok, j'ai pas tout lu, j'essaie de voir un petit peu. There's different background. Je vais lire ça après, pendant la pause. But we have different background. We have students, we have students, we have say full-time students, and then those who work in community agency, in social security. Donc it's quite varied. Intéressant. Ça veut dire là, pour que ça ne devienne pas boring pour vous aussi, j'essaie de pas faire que le manuel, pas faire que ça. Donc on fait share application. In your Blackboard, you will find there's a discussion space for you. It's for you to use. Sometimes you have questions or you want to share your questions. Maybe you have come across a particular reading that you want to share with others. It's your space as students. C'est important d'avoir un espace de s'exprimer. Parce que certains étudiants demandent cet espace pour pouvoir partager les choses. Ceux qui aiment lire, partager. Because you learn while you're sharing too. Donc, the evolutionary perspective, c'est dans votre manuel, somewhere in your manual. Donc, people should be preoccupied with sexuality as were our ancestors. Donc, it was survival of the fittest, comme on dit. Every human focused on sexuality were most likely to engage regularly in conceptive sexual behavior and have children who also shared their parents' heightened sexual interest. By contrast, every early humans with only a modest interest in sex would rapidly have been out-reproduced. Donc ça, c'est logique. Donc, evolutionary perspective, c'est plus sur le reproductive aspect pour assurer l'espèce humaine. Okay, let's do an activity. With a piece of paper, you might have a piece of paper, your pen or pencil. Let's write the basic gender stereotypes that you might have come across or heard or even perpetrate in school, at home, or at work. let's take a few minutes and write it down. Think about it, write it down, and then you share with me. Oui. Hi. Okay, anyone want to share? Gender stereotype in schools or at home or at school, wherever you want to start. You can jot it in the chat or prenez la parole. You have connection issues, you can just send it in the chat. Yes.
Men are tough.
Pardon?
Men, most of the men are tough, whereas women are more sensitive, I think.
Women are more sensitive, men are tough. C'est ça?
Oh, oui.
Okay. Okay. Men are tough. Okay, let's say men. Quoi d'autre?
In
Women,
school, boys are better at sports and girls are better at language.
Boys are better at sports.
Sports, yes.
Okay. Et puis?
Girls are better at language.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, football is made for boys at school, not for girls. And one for home is heavy duty is for men, and women are made for cleaning, babysitting, cooking.
Hmm. Donc j'écris ce que vous écrivez dans le chat.
Madam, morning.
Oui. Hi.
For pre-primary school, we see mostly a woman.
Okay.
Maybe
Pre-primary.
yes, the interest is more concerned with by women, and it occurs also for social worker, mostly all women.
Donc, c'est intéressant parce qu'auparavant, like decades and decades ago, it was dominated by male. Tout ce qui est helping professional, be it psychology, social work was mostly male dominated. Mais maintenant, c'est plus une féminisation du secteur. Donc, at school, attendez, primary, pas mal de participation. Donc, men said to be breadwinner. Heavy duty. Mothers, primary caregivers, fathers. On va dire secondary caregivers or helpers, help. They help. It's not their job, it's just they help. Boys better than maths, but maths. Boys are better at sports, maths, and physics. Women should be submissive. Ah, ça c'est la société. Should have one for society. Woman and men dominant. Yeah, if anyone has seen the Barbie movie, it's where you see the gender stereotypes like men, the dominance, the patriarchy, comme on dit, patriarchal society, donc on est toujours cette société-là, mais c'est caché un peu. Like we want to say that there's more opportunities for women, still it's the structure, patriarchal structure is still present. Men are looked upon to be more strong physically. Donc ça c'est biology. Donc fragile. Physical strength. Tougher. Desire. Balance. Donc, these are some of the gender stereotypes. It might not be, it's some of them that you might have heard or experienced or that you might perpetuate as a member of society. Ça ne veut pas dire que c'est généralisé et ça ne veut pas dire que c'est le cas maintenant, now. It could be, but it's not generalized, ok? Parce que si on, bon, gender stereotypes, c'est parce que c'est pas, c'est juste que c'est des perceptions, c'est des influences, c'est beliefs. Ça ne veut pas dire que c'est le cas. Par exemple, à l'école, nous avons pas mal de filles qui prennent des sujets scientifiques, qui jouent au foot, because there is schools are creating a space for them to develop, to grow and develop. Similarly, for boys, there is more space for them to choose food and nutrition to because they are good chefs. Ah, il y a une différence. Les chefs dans la cuisine, les chefs, c'est male dominated. Malgré que women are in the kitchen. Donc, ce qui fait que maintenant, il y a plus de opening for boys and girls to express themselves. Girls in sports, there are spaces, and there, pour casser ce gender stereotypes, il y a pas mal de travail qui est fait. Non, but we are not, il n'y a pas l'égalité, mais there are some spaces have been created for female to express themselves in sports, in arts, in the choice of subjects. At home aussi, il se peut, donc toujours pas généraliser, il se peut aussi pas mal de personnes qui, there is some kind of sharing of tasks, of household chores. Mais il y a aussi parmi donc young couples, there are also those who hold the beliefs that women should be caring for the kids and they are here to help. Helping is not sharing equally the task. It's just I'm here when I'm free, I can help you. Donc c'est un peu mitigé ce qui se passe because the gender stereotypes are still present. Parce que ça a marqué des générations et des générations. Si la génération de maintenant ne change pas, ne questionne pas those beliefs, then they will perpetuate it to the next generation. So we start by us, by questioning the gender stereotypes. What are we doing? Et as social workers, donc as therapists, we can analyze those because these stereotypes, they come into session. When you meet parents, when you meet clients, when you meet people, you will see there are stereotypes that are impacting their lives and comme si ça accentue leurs problèmes. Par exemple, problème dans un couple, c'est parce que the women, they are feeling overwhelmed with duties, responsibilities, stress. And they are looking for a safe line. C'est pas d'aider qu'on l'aide, mais de partager les tâches. Et c'est difficile si we don't recognize that there is this gender stereotype that's accentuating. Et maintenant, pas que le couple, mais aussi family, extended family, influence of extended family, their beliefs. Comment ils vont juger cette personne aussi. Donc, tout ça influence, ça impacte le stress, ça impacte le problème de nos clients. At schools, expectations of parents or educators, our expectations of how will they work, par exemple, for boys. Do we have high expectation for them? Il y a une théorie, en français on appelle ça la théorie Pygmalion. En anglais, we call it the self-fulfilling prophecy. On a vu que if we educators, we believe in a child, we believe in their capacity, comparé aux enfants that we believe they will not pass or they are weak, vous allez voir que ces enfants-là vont effectivement pas bien travailler. Par contre, si we believe in them, in their capacities, we encourage them, motivate them, there will be a difference in their outcome, like in their results. Donc, expectations play a role. Donc, expectations aussi, comment, it's something, bon, expectations we might expect based on how the students work in class, but also, si on n'analyse pas nos concepts, nos beliefs, nos core beliefs about boys and girls, what do we expect? Are we treating each one equally? Or are the boys in class looking for more attention for their misbehavior? So you're giving more attention to those boys and less to girls, which might influence their motivation. Donc, tout ça. Donc, quand on parle d'analyser les gender stereotypes, c'est pas juste de voir comme ça, mais regarder l'influence, que ce soit dans la classe, à la maison, au travail. OK. Donc, any question, just pop in. So these were previous class discussion. We got some stereotypes: crying like a girl, climbing like a boy, doll for girls, gun for boys. OK. Vous avez déjà appris sur families, the primary socialization. Donc, families provide a structure for intimacy, a safe place to be nurtured, to grow and to learn. Mais on sait aussi que family can be a place where trauma can start. Donc, from families, we learn the basis of gender identification and role expectations. We are taught the finer points of social interaction. Donc, les valeurs familiales, which is like a compass to the young ones. The expectations such as reciprocity, mutuality, sensitivity, boundaries. Donc, dans les familles, on apprend la réciprocité. Par exemple, surtout si on a des frères et des sœurs, that you share things, you help each other, and there are values of sharing, loving, respect. Boundaries, c'est ce qu'on peut faire aussi, ce qu'on peut pas faire. Voilà. Norms and expectations are communicated through discourses. Discourses, c'est ça. Comme on a vu, le gender stereotypes, it's societal discourses. C'est ce que disent la société. Donc, norms and expectations of a culture are communicated through discourses or social discourses. And we take them for granted sometimes. We don't question them. C'est les adolescents qui les questionnent plus encore parce que souvent on les défend de faire des choses, il y a des interdictions. Donc, they start questioning why they can't do that, why their brother can do that. Donc, discourse is defined as a system of statements and practices and institutional structures that share common values. Gender discourses still often suggest that in a heterosexual couple, the man should earn more money than the woman. Donc, the discourse-based comparison shapes their relationship and contributes to their judgment. So, why do we have a problem? À la base, c'est parce qu'il y a ce discours sociétal sur le gender. Men should earn more. And then, because of this discourse, it creates a problem in the couple, since we are part of this culture. Donc, we reproduce these discourses also in counseling. Donc, nous, en tant que travailleurs sociaux, notre rôle, c'est de voir au-delà du problème. C'est-à-dire, qu'est-ce qui cause, what's causing this problem? Donc, là, c'est très simplifié ce que je dis, mais souvent les problèmes, c'est compliqué, c'est complexe, but to try to understand it is through analyzing. Donc, lisons cet extrait. When you have a piece of reading, you don't just accept whatever is written. First of all, you analyze. That's critical thinking. First of all, regardez l'année 1977. C'est daté, ça veut dire. C'est-à-dire ça, cet extrait-là, est-ce que c'est toujours le cas? Ça s'applique à la société maintenant? Pas vraiment, pas nécessairement. Parce que là, in a given society, at any given moment, people become sexual in the same way as we become everything else. C'est-à-dire, on dit que c'est l'influence sociétale, c'est l'influence de l'environnement. Without much reflection, c'est-à-dire cognition, pas vraiment. Les personnes deviennent ce qu'ils deviennent parce que l'environnement, l'influence de l'environnement est plus grande. C'est ça ce qui définit. Mais on parle aussi un petit peu de cognitive influence. C'est through our social interaction, we develop certain meanings, skills and values. Mais on a tendance à se laisser aller, à être influencé par l'environnement. Donc, ce n'est pas nécessaire ça. Ça peut être influencé par l'environnement ou ça peut être influencé. Donc, la critique est, do we become everything, like everything else, we become sexual because we are influenced by our environment? Or do we have certain cognitive skills to know what we want? Or do we have genetic influence? Est-ce que c'est pas que l'environnement, c'est our genes that influence who we are? Et puis ensuite, il dit que this belief, we will be like this for the rest of childhood, adolescent, adulthood. Pas vraiment, parce qu'on a vu maintenant que les gens changent. And we look at sexuality development throughout the lifespan. We are different when we were kids, adolescent, and now we're different. We will be different during all adulthood. Parce qu'il y a différentes influences. Et aussi, it's like sexuality, it's not determined for whole life. Donc là, c'est une petite critique. J'ai mis ça juste pour dire, pouvoir critiquer ce que vous lisez aussi. Like, this is important to develop this critical skill. Donc, gender equity, traditional notions of family, gender roles have been transformed. Donc, on parle de gender equity, c'est quoi? We try to shake the patriarchal structure. We try to transform the gender roles. Gender equity, maintenant, on parle de, avant, c'était extended families, then two parent to one parent household. Il y a plus de female participation. Women are more represented in managerial position. Mais seulement les changements, the changes in many households are superimposed on a patriarchal structure. Donc, la patriarchie est toujours là. It's just now women have double jobs. They have to work on the labor market but continue to be primary givers and responsible for domestic tasks. Par contre, on ne peut pas généraliser toujours parce que there are changes. Certaines familles, il y a plus de partage de tâches. Je ne sais pas à Maurice trop, mais à l'étranger, on voit involvement of both parents. To be inclusive, I won't say father and mother, I will say the primary caregivers, be it the one who is the father or the one who is the mother. There's the involvement of both parents. Donc, gender in social interactions. Ensuite, bon, ce que nous avons vu, the gender stereotypes, how they manifest in sessions. Like, men don't cry, or don't be bitchy, or don't be a sissy. C'est just to shut down someone, shut down their expression. And we can analyze it in counseling, in session with someone, how by stifling, by shutting down their expression, how it influences their expression. Par exemple, boys cutting off emotionally. Donc, they don't connect to their emotions. Or girls, they are not allowed to express anger. Donc, they turn the anger inward, inside. Quand they turn their anger inside, they cannot express themselves. The more they cannot express themselves, the more they turn the anger inside. The more boys are cut off emotionally, they don't get access to their emotions, the more they cannot express themselves, their vulnerability. Donc, ça pour vous montrer que it's like a circular pattern that what we find in session, the more they, for example, boys or girls, they can't express themselves emotionally. They manifest it sometimes through self-harm behaviors. They turn this, especially girls, turn the anger inward. Boys, they are disconnected emotionally. Donc, they tend to stifle, to suffocate their vulnerability. They don't show that they too can be vulnerable. Donc ça, on a vu, gender influences. Non, ça, on va pas passer. Ça aussi, on a vu. Sexual scripts, religious and romantic scripts. Mm, ok. Moi, faire la partie lifespan sexual development. Donc, pour faciliter votre révision, when you do lifespan, sexuality for lifespan, you can just write down the different milestone like infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood. There's the early, middle, and late adulthood. What's the major? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Quels sont les points importants qui se passent au niveau du sexual development across the different milestones? Here in infancy, on a vu like sexual functioning begins from birth. Male babies get partial or complete erection right after birth. Female babies experience vaginal lubrication also. Et puis, on voit in early childhood, children as early as to engage in genital manipulation, masturbation. How do parents react to that? This will impact the child's sexual development also. For instance, the way we react will influence whether the child develops shame and guilt regarding sexuality, regarding sexual development. Et puis, there is a latency period. Ça veut dire pas grand-chose se passe en around 5 à 11 ans, where children learn. Donc, on appelle ça le latency period. There's a decline in sex play, even though curiosity in reproduction and sexuality remains. Donc, au début, c'est-à-dire la naissance, il y a there is some sexual functioning, they explore, and then there is latency, not much things happen. And then puberty. Puberty, there is physical change and biological changes in both girls and boys. Là, on décrit un petit peu qu'est-ce qui se passe au niveau physique, c'est-à-dire development of secondary sex characteristic with the sex hormone, androgen and estrogen. Ensuite, l'adolescence, là, on parle de période d'adolescence en 10 à 19 ans, où il y a aussi possibilité, il y a la sexual exploration, experimentation, risky behaviors. Ça, c'est important, le risky behaviors, parce que là, risky sexual behaviors, they might get sexually transmitted diseases or unwanted pregnancies. Depending on the culture, depending on whether they were exposed to some sort of sexuality education, which might either delay their sexual first sexual encounter, or it might not delay their sexual encounter. Donc, puberty, et on a vu des recherches, ont vu que voilà, depending on socio-economic status or your environment, whether you might have risky sexual behaviors. Donc, ça c'est adolescence, puberty, et puis adulthood, emerging adulthood, there's casual sex, either within or outside marriage. Males are more sexually active, they have higher number of partners. Donc, individuals who are sexually active in adolescence engage in more risky behaviors than their counterparts. Middle adulthood, là c'est préménopause, ménopause, perimenopause, and some men have some erectile dysfunction. Donc ça c'est characteristic of a middle adulthood. And then late adulthood, you have poor health or the death of one partner. Death of one partner and sexuality might decline. But sexuality in late adulthood is quite taboo. Il y a une série sur Netflix qui s'appelle Grace et Frankie. It talks about sexuality in late adulthood. And it talks about, ça va vous, like, it will open your mind about sexuality. It's Grace et Frankie. It talks about sexuality in late adulthood. It talks about LGBTQIA at any age. Donc, late adulthood marked by illness, death, and also declining sexuality. And l'aspect tabou de sexuality in late adulthood. Donc, this is a summary of sexuality throughout the lifespan. Est-ce qu'on a des questions? Et ça, on a fait sexual orientation, on a passé dessus. Et puis les lois, ça, vous pouvez lire un petit peu. UN Convention on the Rights of a Child. On a le Children's Act à Maurice, le Children's Act 2020. Donc, définition d'un enfant, c'est tout ce qui est moins de 18 ans. Donc, it's a crime to have sexual intercourse with a minor or with those who cannot consent. Who are those who cannot consent? They are minors and those who are mentally challenged. Donc, this is about the legal aspect of
Oh, s'il te
sexuality.
plaît, Brianna. Moi, je l'adore, cette maison.
Là, ce que vous pouvez faire, c'est de lire le Unit 1, d'essayer de voir ce que vous avez, de revoir. Si vous n'avez pas lu, lisez. Une première lecture, ça prend quelques heures ou 1 hour max. Then you look at the video de Alok Menon qui parle de son expérience à New York as a trans, as an Indian American in another society, avec tous les idées, all the stereotypes. Ça, la vidéo, ça veut dire regarder la présentation, votre manuel et la vidéo. By the end of the next week, you will have access to the readings on Unit 4, Narrative Therapy and Representation, Everything. Et là, vous avez déjà accès à votre Narrative Therapy question, assignment on Narrative Therapy. So the next unit will be on unit, well, the next unit will be unit 4, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse, on va parler un petit peu c'est quoi, quelles sont les caractéristiques, how the neuroscience behind sexual abuse, behind trauma. There's the neuroscience behind trauma. And how do we intervene as therapists? And our limitations, how do we involve other stakeholders to help our clients? Y a-t-il des questions?
Madame, we will cover all the units.
Vous voulez dire cover all the units?
Pour les examens, on aura toutes les units parce que
Ah, d'accord.
vous nous dites que la semaine prochaine, ça va être sur unit 4, next
Oui.
section.
Ok, d'accord. Ça veut dire que we will cover all the units, mais pourquoi je fais unit 4 next session? It's because your assignment is on narrative therapy, and there is some kind of sexual abuse in the case study, and I want you to like understand, and I will explain about narrative therapy, and I will do sexual abuse for you to be able to answer the case study, like better able to answer the case study. Après, on va continuer avec unit 2, 3, 5. C'est juste par rapport aux assignments que je fais unit 4 next time. But we will cover everything. In the 5 sessions, we will cover all the 5 units. Parce que pour les examens, on doit toucher à tout, au fait.
Thank you.
C'est bien. Donc, sinon, ça veut dire on se voit dans une 10-15 de minutes. It's on another link. So, thank you. See you in a bit.